Hello and welcome. You are listening to an episode of the Sales Chat Show. To stream or download a host of further free episodes that will power your sales success, please visit saleschatshow.com. We really hope that you enjoy and benefit from this episode. So, hello folks, and welcome to another episode from the Sales Chat Show. We have a full Sales Chat Show posse complement today, as I am joined by Mr. Anthony Steers and Mr. Graham Jones, and I'm Simon Hazeldine, and this episode is called Mastering the Art of Cost-Effective Sales Strategies in Tough Times, as it will not have escaped the attention of our wonderful Sales Chat Show listeners. Economic conditions in a variety of countries are a bit challenging, to say the least. We've also got quite a lot of political and economic uncertainty, all sorts of tariffs being imposed and then removed and then being reimposed, etc. Over in the US from the USA. So it's creating a bit of an uncertain sort of financial climate. So we thought we would take a look at that as a topic, and Graham, as he often has been doing, has been keeping his eyes and ears open. And actually, and I know for the Sales Chat Show listeners, we're going to start off by talking about marketing, are we not, Graham? And oh my goodness! And of course, we would like to remind our Sales Chat Show listeners, the modern sales organisation, revenue generation organisation, those functions working together beautifully in harmony. We don't want any of that sales versus marketing nonsense on the Sales Chat Show. We don't want any of that sort of old-fashioned malarkey, do we, gentlemen? So, that being said, Graham, marketing research insights that you discovered, it was what the senior leaders are looking for from their marketing teams, if I recall.
Yeah, so this was from a study done by Creator IQ. And the study is called The State of Creator Marketing for 2025 to 2026. And what it really showed was that those people in charge of marketing have realized that, as you just said, there are economically troubled times. So what they want is more return on their investment in marketing. So they want people to get more out of what they're doing, but at the same time, they're going to reduce the budgets. So they're going to be reduced budgets and increased requirements for better use of those budgets to produce more from their marketing spend. So they want more from less. And if that's happening to marketing, that's inevitably going to happen to sales as well. So that's why I thought that was a good trigger for us to talk about how do you deal with troubled times, economically constrained times, when you still need to sell.
And I think actually that is very relevant, because I was sort of poking a little bit of fun at the old-fashioned marketing sales lack of alignment, but many organisations now will have all revenue generating and protecting functions sitting under a chief revenue officer. So that's probably going to be the same boss. So if he or she is saying that to the marketing team, they're going to be saying it to the sales teams as well. So it's a little bit about more with less, I guess, is the kind of the focus here. Yeah. So we bounced around a few ideas before we came on air, just talking about this, and so we were sort of thinking about this topic of return on investment, right? So it's I think for sales teams, we need to be thinking not just about the cost of something financially, but also the time investment of cost. So we need to be looking at productivity as well. So kick us off, chaps. Where are we going first on this one?
I think the first thing is you need to know what your baseline is. In other words, you need an audit of where are we now, because you can work out where you want to get to in getting more return on your investment and getting more out of less spend. But actually, until you know where you are, you don't know where you're going, basically. So I think an audit of all the spending you're doing, all your
Yeah.
accounts, to work out, where the best revenue is likely to come from, and where you're spending money where you don't need to spend money because you may not be getting benefit from that spend. That spend was good in
Mm.
better economic times, but now it maybe need ditching that spend. So I think you need to audit everything you're doing first before you go anywhere
Yeah.
else.
So
I think
see where your revenue streams are coming from and what
I think
that's
I think if you can
costing you.
identify your key sources, right? If you can look through your client base and figure out which of your lead channels did most of these come from, that hopefully tells you that's the lead channel to invest the time or the money into. Although,
Mm.
as Graham was saying that, I feel that we're all playing with AI, trying to get more out of it. Do we need to get AI to audit our AI to figure out which ones we're not actually using yet or isn't working?
Well, there is there could actually be as a side topic, you might want to audit your tech stack and have a look at what is being used and what is not being used. You might find a correlation actually between some of the people who are making and embracing some of the technology you're providing might be the people who are generating more revenue. But but yes, definitely I'd probably, make sure you are having a look. So there's a number of ways we can approach this audit, I suppose. So it's where is our current revenue coming from now? We would hope most sales organizations would know that, though, would they or would they not?
Well, they ought to know.
Yeah, so you should. I was going to
Should
say, but
know, but
if you, I can recall a very very early coaching conversation early in my career, where my boss who introduced me to the wonderful 80/20 principle, he said, "So who's your biggest customers?" And I went, "Oh, it's these ones." And he said, "And what percentage?" And he got me to do the number, and that was interesting. And then he said, "And who of those, who's got the capacity to grow?" Which is the next question, right? So I
yeah.
think there is a bit here around where's the money coming from now. I'll often
Hmm.
like do a little, if I'm in a workshop or something with sales folks, like a little bar chart. And we all know where the big revenue is coming. Then we have a descending bar chart by customers. And then there's two sorts of small customers, folks. There's small customers, right? They're only a small company. They only have a small requirement. And then there's small customers with you, but there's a big share of wallet spend elsewhere.
Yeah.
So, and that I think is the other is I think you need to do a share of wallet analysis to work out because the big ones you're going to need to defend and protect because you want to hang on to those. But then if you're going to
Yeah.
start prospecting, you want to be prospecting where people have got money. There's
Yeah.
capacity to grow, isn't
But I like Anthony's point about AI. Are we getting AI to check AI?
there?
Because that actually, in your audit, you should be auditing what our tech spend is.
Yeah,
Because
Mhm.
over the years, people add other programs and they add,
yeah,
add-ons to existing programs to which they subscribed. And it gave them useful data at one point. But actually, do you need all that? So do you need three different forms of AI?
yeah,
So you should audit
Mhm.
what AI as part of your tech.
yeah,
I met a speaker who described they reviewed some of their spend and they referred to getting sassed every month by multiple different companies, and they had lots of subscriptions of stuff which they weren't really
yeah,
using or
Yeah,
utilizing, and it all adds up, right? And
yeah,
like you were saying, it's not just the cost of the tool; it's the cost of the time that's
yeah,
spent using that
yeah.
tool as well. So
yeah,
But
absolutely.
but I
Yeah,
would say from a sales productivity point of view, amongst many other uses of AI,
mhm.
I think savvy sellers can be using AI to help themselves to be more productive. And definitely ways to do it. And it, and in fact, probably if the CRM data in your system is reasonably good, there are a number of ways you can use AI to do that sort of analysis for you. So really
yeah,
in-depth analysis of which opportunities are likely to spend, etc. So definitely there's a tech spend. So there's an audit of where's the money coming from now. There's an audit we're suggesting of share of wallet, which I think all salespeople ought to know what that is. We're saying there's a tech spend. I'm also wondering whether there's an audit about it might be, for example, it could be a big account, but how much margin is it generating for you,
Yeah.
and how much, and the two might be the same factor but or different, and or how much resource is required to service the account.
Yeah.
You could have a very high maintenance customer with quite a big account team, and actually the profitability of that customer could potentially be quite low, couldn't it? Because
I've actually got a couple of clients with their CRM systems. I always used to tell people, when you're typing up your notes after a conversation, always start it with, how many minutes did you chat for? Because
yeah,
that gives you a picture of how deep a
Mm.
conversation that was. But
yeah,
I've got a few clients now that's just an extra box to fill in as part of their CRM, so that they can turn around and say, that client has cost us 8 hours this month.
yeah,
Okay. All of a sudden, you can then see the time being spent. And like you say, time is money, or at least we then need to prioritize. And I
yeah,
suppose you were sort of saying about those two types of clients. I always say that there's the big ones that we talk about down the pub, and then there's the
yeah.
little ones that put the food in the fridge type thing. And I
Yes.
think that if we have to cut costs, or make sure we're being as productive as possible, I think we kind of identified there was two key places to kind of start. I suppose that analysis of your CRM system tells you the right pockets to, basically, who should be on your wish list if you are going to
Yeah.
be prospecting. Who should you be doing this with? And Simon, you had an interesting stat when I saw you speak at the National Sales Conference recently, with regards to this, when it comes to uh, connecting with the right sorts of people. If you've got a
Yeah.
wish list of clients, or a small sector that you can tap into, you had a great stat of how important that is
Yeah,
to
this
get
was
in early.
Yeah, this was Ebster Pavilion, fantastic piece of data. 4.2 million sales opportunities. I think 54 billion total revenue. Different size companies, lots of different. I mean, so pretty robust data. So I don't think you can, as a sales professional, you can wriggle out of the results, right? If you don't like these. And elite sales performance. This was a 31% to, apologies to swear in front of Graham, but hit target or quota on a consistent basis. We know Graham doesn't like sales targets. That said, they were 415% more likely to have a high quality relationship with an organisation without there being an associated opportunity. So this, I think, is their prospecting. So they've identified what Anti's referring to as wish list ideal clients. They've got their target clients, and they are in now, in advance of having identified any opportunities. They're working their way across the network in those, and they're establishing themselves as the vendor of choice when the customer moves into their buying process. So when the
And I think,
customer moves into the buying zone, they're already vendor of choice.
yeah, and I think when you have a wish list of clients, it tends to be a much smaller, finite list. You tend to approach it more as cultivating relationships
Yeah,
rather than finding deals or seeking opportunities. You're just networking in the right ponds. You're going to the right events. You, like you say, you're on the radar, so that when those projects come up, hopefully you're one of the first people
yeah.
that they want to speak to.
And I'd also say, just as a quick aside, a quick tip as well, is make sure everybody in the organisation knows who is on the wish list, because everybody has a network of or
Mm.
contact. If they are, I don't know, they might not consider themselves as a business person. They are just, in inverted commas, somebody in accounts. They
Mm-hmm.
have, they know people. I mean, I can't remember
I,
who told me this. It might have been on one of the sales chat shows, that literally they brought one team. They were working out how to get into some of these wish list customers, and they brought in one of the admin team to keep the notes.
Yeah.
And she was a relatively young lady, I seem to remember from the story, and her brother was the director of one of the wish list. And I can't remember. Forgive me if it was your story. Please do let me know, and I can credit you properly. But it was kind of like, eventually, when she said something at the coffee break, somebody said, "Well, why didn't you tell us earlier?" And she said, "Nobody's asked me." So because you never know, right? Who knows? So I'd say these are. Does anybody know anybody in these customers, or does anybody know anybody who knows these? And obviously, you can do that through Sales Navigator as well, and LinkedIn Sales Navigator, etc. But just make sure everybody knows who's on the wish list.
I do
Who's a
this all
friend?
the time with students who don't seem to understand the value of LinkedIn, for example.
Yeah,
And they will have an account, but they won't do anything with it, and they won't have enough connections and all the rest of it. And I ask them in class, I put my profile up and I say, who do you want to work for? Where's your career going? Oh, I'd
yeah,
like to work at, and they name a company. And I said, do you know anybody in that company? And they go, no. And I say, would you like me to introduce someone to that account? Do you know somebody in there? No, I don't. But let's have a look for that company, see who's in that company. I know, look, they know
Yeah,
somebody I know, so I can introduce you. And
yeah,
every single time, there isn't a
yeah,
company that's been mentioned where
yeah,
haven't got. I might have a first connection, obviously, but there's at least a second connection where I can
yeah,
connect them, and they're
yeah.
amazed that how close we are. So in sales, I think anybody who's using LinkedIn will be using Sales Navigator anyway, and will be um, doing this. But you need to audit that to make sure you're making the right connections
yeah,
and not just making connections for the sake of it or trying to do. So a lot of people have kind of prized accounts. They have this account that they love to show off about because, oh, we
mm,
sell to, and then they name, a well-known brand. But actually, the profitability of that brand is really poor for them,
yeah.
and it's great to show off about. But actually, in straitened economic times, it might be better to show off about the profit you're making from less well-known
Yeah.
brands.
Well, it's like Anthony's comment. I mean, when we talk about wish list, I suppose we ought to just clarify. We don't mean everybody's going to go, "Oh, I'd love to work with Apple.
Yeah.
I'd love to work with,
Mm,
the big
Yeah,
whatever brand they come up with." There are lots of very, very boring, unsexy, unglamorous,
mm,
highly, highly profitable businesses out there,
yeah,
folks, that are often not hugely visible outside of their industries that have a fantastic business. And I mean, if you look in the UK, we have Timpsons. Timpsons is they fix shoes, they do dry cleaning, they cut keys. I mean, it's like the most unglamorous
mm,
but privately owned. Nobody knows how much money they make, but let me tell you, it's a good business.
yeah.
It's fulfilling a number of very, very significant fundamental needs. It's not glamorous. It's not sexy.
mm,
I'd love to own it.
mm.
Right.
Yeah.
It's not for sale, as I understand,
No, I
Simon.
bet,
But
I
never mind.
bet, I absolutely, and
But
by
it
the way,
would.
an incredibly progressive management culture and style in that
Yeah,
organisation as well. By the way, just saying that
Mm,
is that. But there's lots of because the big brands, the big companies, they're highly prospected. Others are less so. So that's a
mhm.
good. So the wish list,
Well, I
I
think
think,
if, like I said, as a wish list, you then don't get too, you don't just churn through data and burn
yeah,
through data because that's what a lot of people do, and
yeah,
they say they're buying leads, but what they're actually buying is data, and then they just
yeah,
churn their way through it, and it's
yeah,
terrible. So I like to think of this wish list as more of sniper selling as opposed to scattergun. So if you haven't got much ammo or much budget to spend, that much time, then this kind of
yeah,
wish list definitely is a better way of doing it. Um, and like I say, it makes you slightly more patient, more researched,
yeah,
more calculated. And you often find that with these big ones, you need to deal with the scraps before you get offered a seat at the table. So getting your foot through the door, being on their radar can be great.
yeah,
But then you've got the other types of deals, the ones that we don't mention down the pub, the little ones. I think
yeah,
in tougher times, we then need to look at maybe some of the low hanging fruit. So that could be going back to some of the clients where we spotted those growth
yeah.
opportunities that you talked about. It could be our lower value, less glamorous products or services that have a much quicker turnaround time than other services and stuff as well. So yeah, I think that's got to be a factor in your
yeah.
strategy, right?
So I
I
think,
think that's neat because that, we start off with audit and find out where we are in both
yeah,
spend and revenue. And now what you're really talking about is focusing on those high revenue accounts, the ones where
yeah,
we earn the most. So
yeah.
having done the audit, now you can do exactly that and use that sniper approach to go for those high revenue accounts.
I mean,
And
I
then
actually think it shouldn't just be for tough times. Anthony's sniper
yeah,
approach. It
quite,
should
yeah.
be it should
Yeah.
be it should be business as usual, right? That we should be that focused as sales teams. And I think interesting. You probably part of that audit and analysis is maybe, and it won't necessarily be this case, but maybe, I don't know, deals under 50k move through your pipeline at a faster speed than deals over. I mean,
Mm.
general rule of thumb, the bigger the spend by the customer, the more people are likely to be involved in authorizing the decision and so on and so forth. So maybe if you're looking while you are prospecting some of those longer term, medium to long term, some of the quicker stuff as well. So maybe it's a two speed strategy or a two timeline. So understand what comes in faster, what
Mm.
comes in quickly, and if we can fill the pipeline with 10 of those while we're hunting the whale, we're going fishing for the big whale. That I think that's smart. Previous
Yeah.
clients, by the way, as well, is audit, go through everybody who has purchased from you in the past and reconnect with them, because you might even still have somebody sitting in those
Yes,
customers.
if you prioritize those ones that are smaller in individual revenue terms, but you prioritize them, you're increasing your cash flow coming in because
Yeah,
that money's going to come in sooner than the
yeah,
20 million pound deal, which is going to take 2 years to do, kind of thing.
yeah,
So if you prioritize those smaller things, you improve your cash flow, which your boss is going to love because you're in
yeah.
these difficult economic times. There's more money coming in that they can spend. So yeah, prioritize those technically smaller ones that are going to bring in the cash fairly quickly.
But also, it's again connecting back. It's share of wallet, right? So they're small, but are they a small company or are they just buying small from you?
Yeah, yeah,
And Anthony, your point as well about you've got to get the foot in the door and get some revenue going. This is classic sales land and expand strategy. Get
Yeah,
in, get revenue, get on the books, get a
yeah,
purchase order, get a supplier, get registered, go through all that, and then go hunting, right? Land,
yeah.
land. And I think if we've mentioned this before, it's sometimes called white space analysis or windows of opportunity. All the customers down one column in a spreadsheet, all your service and product lines across the horizontal, and then just work out where the gaps are and go looking, hunting for the white space. They're buying product A and B from you, they're not buying C. Why not? Is it because they don't need it, or is it because they don't know you sell product C, or nobody from your company has spoken to them about product C? And a great thing is literally you can almost take that with you to the meeting and say, hey,
Yes.
Anthony, I've just been doing some analysis and an audit, and I've just noticed that unlike most other companies in your sector, you're not buying this from you. Is that something you have a need for, or is or on off? And I would
Yeah.
I would put money on the fact, folks, that if everybody does that with some discipline and some rigor, you will find new revenue opportunities.
Yes, I have to say I don't
mm,
think I've ever worked with an IT company who's managed to get the whole wallet spend. They
No,
always are buying other things from other places as well.
yeah.
So I suppose the last bit that I would kind of throw in there as a way of sweeping up as much revenue and cheap leads as we can as part of those retention type calls you talked about, because it's important to kind of keep our customers and make sure that we're not losing them. And I actually think that on if you've got a customer services team, there's an opportunity here as well. One of my little golden rules I give people: if you're ever speaking to an actual customer, so not a prospect, but a customer, it could be a new customer, it could be a legacy old customer, it doesn't really matter. But when you hear the words thank you, so when you are speaking to these clients, quite often they are going to say thank you. It's a bit of a British thing, but people just tend to do it. If you're being helpful, then it's just words that tend to fall out of people's mouth. But just remember, it is a verbal cue of gratitude. So whenever you hear it, I always say graciously accept their thanks. And
Mhm.
then it's the perfect moment to just ask for a little something in return. And just by saying, oh, you're very welcome, it's all part of the service. But look, don't suppose you'd mind writing as a review. People always want to hear what our customers say about us. Or Well, you're very welcome. It's all part of the service. But look, seeing as you like that product, can I tell you about a couple of our other services?
Mm.
It's a great opportunity to upserve clients. And worst case scenario, from the third time onwards that you hear thank you from a client, just ask for referrals. You're very
Yeah.
welcome.
So
Is there anybody else you know who might be interested in our
yeah,
services or any other companies you think I should reach out to? Because that's then free, cheap leads that are nice and warm,
yeah,
that we can sometimes even get our client to connect us with as well. I
Mm.
think there's lots of opportunities where we can
yeah.
leave money on the table, and just subtle little things like that thank you equals ask can make a big difference to a few
Yeah,
extra, particularly on the new business side. New business is a tricky one, and I
yeah.
think the more referrals we can get, the more that's going to help everyone.
I mean, it's a classic sort of, you know, Nigel, how long have you been in HR? Oh, been in HR 25 years. Gosh, you must know a lot of other HR directors. Oh, yeah, I know loads of them. Is there one or two of those that you think that you know that you think we ought to be having a conversation with? Because if you know if we've helped you, we might. Yeah, it's just that sort of just ask.
Yeah.
Like, uh,
Well, I've even had people who've written me feedback, and then I've said to them, look, and they've been from HR directors or managers, and
mm,
I've said, are you in any other HR forums or
yeah,
groups where you don't mind going to share that? Places that I don't have access to. And again, if they're happy to write a review,
yeah.
they're usually happy to put it around for you. So if you don't ask, you won't get.
Yeah, and the other one, by the way, is kind of sometimes referred to as a bluebird. You can do it in Sales Navigator if you've got LinkedIn Sales Navigator. By the way, if your people have got LinkedIn Sales Navigator and they're not using it, I think you need to be doing a return on investment coaching conversation with them and across all of the because they
Should be
should be. And I am
should
not
be
being
part of
paid,
your audit.
and I am not being paid by LinkedIn. I often get accused. You keep talking about Sales Navigator. Do you get paid? And I know
You're
I ought
sponsored.
to. I absolutely ought to be and the CRM companies. You all owe me
And
big
Simon
stuff.
is open to sponsorship deals, LinkedIn, if you are
I
listening in,
absolutely
just so that you know.
100%. But you can find people who've worked for the company that you've dealt with previously, and then you can do a search filter. Where have they gone? You should be tracking that anyway, right? Because every time an
Yeah.
existing customer changes jobs, they either move, most of the time, they move within the industry. In pharmaceutical, they move to another pharmaceutical, or they move within their specialist job role. So they're in human resources, they move to human resource. They're in sales, they move to sales. You already know them. You've had a You've had a. It's almost sometimes referred to like as a bluebird search, right? You can rekindle the relationship. They're in their new job. They want to probably make a good mark. That's also another great. How many of your in your audit? How many of your current customers have people moved, and where are they? And then that's another great way to start a prospecting activity.
Talking of moving, in straitened economic times, salespeople will be worried that they will be
Yeah.
moved from their role into the world of redundancy, maybe.
Mm,
And so motivating your staff is also a key thing for sales managers
yeah,
in these straitened economic times because if your staff are worried that the company's facing difficulties and they're going to potentially lose their job, they're not going to be as motivated. So you may have a compensation scheme, but you can't rewrite that compensation scheme. So you've got to look at other ways to motivate your sales staff that doesn't need HR
Mm.
to rewrite the rules and so on. So simple things like, when somebody's done something successful and they've, signed up a new deal, just let them have a half day off or something,
yeah,
or,
yeah,
give them extra time off, or
Mhm.
have weekly meetings where you're all having cake and biscuits or whatever it is, something that makes them feel wanted,
Mhm.
will help motivate them. So you don't have to think about fancy compensation, but there are simple things you can do to demonstrate to people that they are valued, and that
Mhm.
will motivate them to do this because they are
Yeah.
going. If the company is saying we want a greater return on investment and we're cutting budgets, they're going to be naturally
yeah,
thinking it's me next. And then
yeah.
they're going to be demotivated from doing all this work. So you've got to motivate them to do this work by rewarding them in some way.
There was,
And like you say, sometimes I've found that putting money up on a board and running a competition for £50 or £20 no, I always find that at least half the room perks up and wants to do it.
Yeah.
But the side that don't, when you say half a day's up for grabs, it's amazing how much actually a little bit of time off, that
Yeah.
kind of appreciation, is probably worth more than the fact they know they're going to get commission on the deal anyway, a lot of
Yeah.
the time. But little thank yous of appreciation, I think, shows people you rewarding their efforts, even if you are paying their salary for
Yeah,
those results anyway.
and
Yeah.
you just made me think as well. I think the other audit is you need to audit where you're spending your time as a sales leader and a sales manager with which of your team, because
Yeah.
there's been a number of pieces of research that show managers will tend to gravitate towards the higher performers, or they spend an inordinate amount of time on the poorer performers. If you get the mid, which in any bell curve is the bulk of your sales team, if you nudge them all up a few percentage points in performance or revenue, that's going to be a much bigger impact of your time as well. So I think you've got to really think very carefully about where you spend, where you spend your time, and
Mhm.
also is to Anthony. You mentioned the stuff I was sharing at the national sales conference as well. Get on top of your coaching with your salespeople, because elite sales performers 412% more likely to have the next step or meeting defined in the CRM, and they're 483% more likely to update their opportunities weekly. I don't think that's about CRM usage. I think that's about the fact they're on top of their business, and the
Yeah.
CRM data is just showing they are managing it well. You should always know what the next step in is sale, and then do some deal
Mhm.
progression coaching with people. So where are we now, Anthony? What's the
Yeah.
next step? Or work backwards, do a reverse close
Yeah.
coach, and work
Yeah.
backwards. And where are we now? So what's the next step? And then and that helps with that velocity. That's bringing those sales that you do have in the pipeline. You're moving them through faster.
Yeah. 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 Well, yeah, I always harp on about my TFR taking final responsibility for your next
100%.
conversation. And I think the temptation sometimes is to log the next action. And the next
Yeah.
action could be sending a quote or a proposal or something to somebody. But actually, the next thing you really needed to do was tee up the conversation when they've had a chance to review that document. Otherwise, you end up with this kind of pipeline constipation
Yes.
happening,
Yeah.
and lots in your pipeline that you are very much not in control of. And yeah, it then becomes much harder to forecast as well.
And also audit how well qualified are your opportunities, elite sales performers, 588% more likely to follow a qualification methodology, which qualification, one way of thinking about it is how likely are you to win the business, which helps in Anthony's sniper. You can sniper focus on the most highly qualified deals, which
Mhm.
you're more likely to win, which will improve Salesforce productivity as well. So I think that's another kind of thing. By the way, just opportunities updated weekly are 17% more likely to go to closed win. So it just shows
Yeah.
focus, right? It's focus all the time. It's focus on keeping opportunities,
A-
moving.
a- Another thing to focus on is working out which channels work best.
Yes.
Yeah. Is it
Yeah.
telephone? Is it face to face? Is it LinkedIn? Yeah. So for different clients, different channels will produce you
Yeah.
better results. So you need to, as part of your audit, really, isn't it, to work that out?
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
And
focus on the channels that are producing the best returns for you.
yeah.
Yeah.
And even doubling up on channels. If you go and
Mm.
visit a client, you'll usually send an email afterwards to follow up. If you send an email and you don't
Yeah.
get a response, you should probably phone them to check that they've actually got it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that keeping an eye on that and noticing the trends of when people available answer which platforms it's on definitely is
Yeah.
going to increase your productivity, right?
Well, it's also it loops back to that. There's always the next step, right? What's the next step? I've sent it. Okay. What's the next step? I'll email just to follow. Okay. Email's gone. What's the next step? I'm going to phone. Right.
Yeah.
It's all for every single sale, that
Yeah.
next opportunity needs to be, and
Yeah.
of
And for anybody
course,
who's kind of listening and worried about sounding pushy or salesy when you're doing this, you can literally be as friendly as saying, well, look, well, I'll send you everything by the end of the day. So manage their expectations and then just say something like, But when do you think we should chat? If I haven't heard from you,
Yeah.
when should I nudge, or when do you think we should speak next? Because that will often give you an indication of what kind of timeframes they're
Mm,
looking to move at. It will manage your expectations, and it just means that if you can get them to set the time frame, you can ask them to stick to it,
yeah.
and that way, like you say, you can keep things moving forwards and
It's
not have a lot of
classic
stuff in the
sales.
wings.
It's classic sales wisdom of get the next meeting booked in the current meeting. You
Mm.
know, it's classic. It's just, and I had somebody a couple of years ago in a workshop, and I just mentioned that as a throwaway comment, and she
Mhm.
got back in touch with me a couple of weeks later. And she said, "I can't believe the difference that's made. That I just get the meeting in." And she says, "Why has nobody ever told me that before?" And I'm thinking, well, at least you know now.
At least you
And
know.
I just thought,
Yeah. Well,
I,
I'm glad I met you very early on because I was like, I don't really have any IP. And you went, yeah, but what you're teaching people, some of this stuff is what we would call advanced common sense because sometimes you
yes,
just don't think of it, right?
yeah, yeah,
Teeing up
yeah.
the meeting before the next meeting. If I realize I'm not getting my follow up call, maybe I should set that up on the previous call.
Yes.
Yeah.
And of course, I don't
Light
know.
bulb.
I'm not poking fun. If you don't know, you don't know, right? But it's some of those. But everything we've spoken about, I don't think you necessarily need to be in tough economic conditions, right? For all of this, this is
No,
just really good
a, a lot of
sales
this
discipline.
is normal sales discipline.
Yeah,
But when people are not in straitened economic times, things relax and
mm,
they feel comfortable. And now suddenly the screws are tightened economically
yeah,
and those relaxations have to go. So I think that's all we're really saying is do what you
yeah,
should be doing as a
yeah,
Mm.
salesperson, as a sales manager,
Yeah.
and forget the kind of faff that you've added and the stuff that
yeah.
you've added in those better times.
Yeah. And
Because
get AI to audit your AI.
Yeah,
this is Anthony's. I can sense a book coming on AI audits for AI. This also, I think, it's a bit of a provocative statement, but sometimes very strong brands or very strong products have a habit of creating quite weak salespeople. Because if your brand has been so powerful in the market and so strong, let's be honest, you're an order taker, not an order maker. You know when Apple would bring out the latest iPhone and there's a queue of 500 people and around the block, right, waiting to buy the new phone. There's people who've slept in sleeping bags to be the first person to buy their phone. Let's be clear. Your pet poodle could sell that phone by standing in the, not that I have a pet poodle, by the way, more of a Great Dane kind of guy, could stand there with that phone and everybody go, thank you, thank you, thank you. What adversity, what tough brings sometimes is a better quality of selling, right? And I
I got
used to work in the drinks industry.
yeah.
My team would sell Stella Artois. Stella was the number one. We were growing 25% on top of 25 every single meeting. How are we doing? Yeah, we sold a lot of Stella Artois. Okay, yeah, tell me about the rest of the portfolio. And then we'd be getting, oh, it's very difficult. And I go, yeah, it is difficult. It's why you've got a job. So, it's everybody wanted Stella Artois. They weren't always as keen on all of the other products because there was more competition for those products. So you have to get better at selling, and but it
Yeah.
brings out the best in you, right? It brings out the best. So tough times can, I don't sound like some motivational speaker kind of person, but tough times can create really good opportunities to improve. So, gentlemen, closing thoughts. Audit your AI, Anthony. Yes.
Yes. Audit your AI, work out which of your lead sources
Yeah.
are providing the most fruitful, highly converting leads, and work out how much each of those
Yeah.
cost you as well. And then you can double down on the
Yeah.
ones that are working and stop wasting time and energy on the ones that don't.
Perfect. Mr. Jones, closing thoughts.
My closing thought is that everything we've spoken about, you should be doing already anyway.
Yeah.
So if you're not, give your head a wobble.
And I've just captured a few of the things that we talked about. Anthony's last comment there was more around what's your cost of sale, right? What's your cost per lead? What's your cost per acquisition? We also looked at auditing spend, share of wallet, margin, profitability, tech spend as well. Get your wish list, sniper selling, audit previous clients. Where can they spend more? Where have people gone? Have they moved somewhere else? Get on top of your pipeline. referrals is, I think referrals is a massively underutilized source of new business. And genuinely, people are usually, if you've done a great job for them, almost without exception, they're very happy to refer you to other. Happens all the time in our local village. We have a little village Facebook group or whatever. Does anybody know a plumber? Can anybody recommend a builder? Can anybody recommend a dog walker? And people, you'll get 20 or 30 responses. Everybody's really happy to recommend somebody who's done a good job for them. And we just need to remember to ask for referrals all the time, particularly to Anthony's point. As soon as they say thank you, ask for something. So, folks, we hope that has given you some food for thought and has wobbled your head, to quote the professor there. Yeah, give your. Did you say give your head a wobble? Was that how you give your? Give your head a wobble, dear Sales Chat Show listeners. So there are over 300, we must count up at some stage, I keep saying that, episodes in the Sales Chat Show back catalogue. We are on all of the major podcast platforms, so wherever you prefer to get your podcast from, you will find the Sales Chat Show. Please remember to subscribe so you get notified of new episodes, and all of our episodes are available from our website, thesaleschat.show.com. So in the meantime, until we speak again, dear listeners, we would like to wish you good luck and good selling. You have been listening to an episode of the Sales Chat Show. To stream or download a host of further free episodes that will power your sales success, please visit saleschatshow.com. Thank you very much for listening to this episode, and from everyone here at the Sales Chat Show, we'd like to wish you good luck and good selling.